Inattentive driving has changed from something that you get after a wreck to something that police officer actually has to observe. I really like the statute where they changed the license revocation, so I put that in 3 times in 3 different places. A little bit of silliness from the legislature, trying to cut down on paraphernalia. It is now illegal to sell a glass tube if it could be used for anything having to do with illegal drugs. It lays out the dimensions, so it's not quite as crazy, but if it's relatively thin and kind of long, it's punishable under that statute. So if it ever gets brought up, there may well be an overbreadth problem with it. In addition to sex offender registry and violent offender registry, we now have the methamphetamine offender registry. Yay, another registry. Not that important about which prescriptions now get reported to the State Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. It's just interesting for me to find out that all my prescriptions automatically go to them. And yours too. You may have heard of a drug called Spice, which is a legal marijuana substitute. It has some of the same pharmacological properties of marijuana, but not the same chemical makeup. So all that gobbledygook there has been added to Schedule 1, and it's now illegal in Oklahoma. Okay, there's the drugs in a car thing again. Another bit of silliness and kind of interesting if you've got teenagers. If you've got a beginner's permit, you have to have some night driving time before you can move up to your intermediate permit. However, they changed the law so that if you have a learner's or intermediate permit, you can't drive at night. The way I think that might be saved is that one statute, the statute that says you can't drive at night says you can't drive between 10 at night and 6 in the morning, and the statute that says you have to drive at nighttime refers to civil twilight to civil twilight. So as long as you're in the winter, when it's dark before it's 10 o'clock, then you can get your driving in with your kid then. Also, for people with learners or intermediate licenses, no handheld electronic devices, from cell phones down to MP3 players. Bus and limo drivers with the drunk limos and the drunk buses, they can't transport under 21s who are in possession of drugs or alcohol. They've also increased the penalties for cheating on your handicap sticker. Oklahoma is trying to get a new system for verifying car insurance. It's supposed to go on board November 1st. They haven't got the system up and working yet. So it's going to be a big mess for a while. Basically, Oklahoma's going to go to using almost exclusively this electronic checking system to make sure you have your car insurance. And they've increased some of the penalties. They can now tow your car if you don't have insurance. The sort of presumption has changed that if you're not on an electronic database, then you really don't have insurance. And it also makes it harder for you to fix your ticket if you do have insurance but don't have it in the car. It's not as easy to get it dismissed with costs. Another bit of little silliness. There are some measures that are emergency measures. Most measures have to have a set date to go into effect. For example, November 1st for a lot of them. Others have to wait some period of time, either 30 or 60 days after the governor signs. If there are some things that are just so important, that are an emergency, you've got to get this passed right now, you can get it on board as an emergency bill And one of the emergency bills this year was that you can get a license plate that shows your support for the eradication of eastern red cedar. So hurry up and get that. It used to be the statute for getting for causing an accident or being in an accident while your driver's license was suspended or revoked was kind of limited. And so they fixed the statute to sort of get more in line with legislative intent, is that anybody who gets injured in a wreck, whether it's in your car, whether it's in the other car, whether it's a pedestrian, you can get charged for that. Although as a defense counsel, I'm not a big fan of it. As a driver, left lane bandits can no longer say, but I was going the speed limit when they were sitting in the left-hand lane blocking traffic. Motorcyclists can go ahead and go through the stop sign if it's not registering that they're there. Bus drivers and train drivers can't text while they're driving, but I guess the rest of us can. For municipal cases, municipal DUIs, it's added that you have to get a drug and alcohol assessment, just like if you were in county or state court. Pardon?
What's the statute of citation on
That is Title 11. That's going to be that's in the municipal codes, or in the state implementing regulations for municipal codes. 11 OS 28-102B. Juveniles, nothing good for juveniles again. Although they've cut the punishment for escape, they also really increased what an escape is. Normally people think of an escape as you break out of a secure facility. Now it includes if you leave a non-secure facility and don't come back. If you don't report back to the group home where you're at, or where you're just supposed to be as part of your release program, that can be counted as an escape. It also counts as a delinquent act, and they can use that as a sole reason to bridge you over to an adult sentence. And I don't know what the legislator was really thinking. They showed that they are truly schizophrenic with youthful offenders. Youthful offenders was initially this area between juveniles and adults where people who are still juveniles but had committed serious crimes could still have that chance to be in a more intensive juvenile program that lasted longer, that had more real consequences if they didn't complete the program. And this top part was part of the legislative intent that they added. They said, you know, we really want kids to be in this program. And so we don't want you to play these age games with them so that they age out and have to be kicked out of the program. In the last 5 years, there's been an ongoing process to really gut the youthful offender program. So before you could keep it until a kid turned 20, now they're done by the time they reach 18 years and 5 months. So it's really a very ineffective program now. And so they also included that in the legislative intent, that although we don't want to kick kids without cause, they are going to be out by 18 years, 5 months, period. Sex offenders, you can never go wrong in the legislature by kicking the sex offenders. You have to register with a physical address, not a post office box. As a result of some cases that were won here in Tulsa with homeless people who'd try to go in and register, and they'd try to go in and register, but they didn't have an address, but were still charged with failing to register because they didn't have a physical home that they could go to. they were allowing them to still come in and register